What's up, A to Z Sports Live on a Wednesday. The Titans have their initial 53-man roster all set, and we're here to react to the biggest surprises of NFL Cutdown Day and the biggest snubs who got cut that we thought were going to be on the roster. And then so we'll talk about all of our opinions to this, your opinions as well. Going to have a really good show this morning, reacting to a very busy YouTube waiting room chat. Complaining about our start time. But hey, look, we start when you guys are ready, and you guys are ready. So here we go. Let's get this thing rocking and rolling here on a Wednesday, Sam. We've also got throwing shade at the end of the show, but pretty simple show today. Roster surprises, roster snubs, and the Titans did make a trade for a kicker where my bold prediction actually wasn't very bold at all, it seems. So let's get this thing rocking and rolling. Sam, welcome in. Let's have a good show.
Hey, let's do it. Straightforward show, but a lot to talk about and a lot of things to break down here. So let's dive in. And before we do, everybody watching, make sure you guys share the show. If you're watching on Facebook, that means hitting the share button on Facebook and letting all of your Facebook friends see what we got going on. If you're watching on YouTube, take the YouTube link, text it to somebody, say, hey, full breakdown of the roster here. If you need to know, get all your questions answered about the Titans roster, this is where you go to drop them, where you go to comment them, or where you go to tell your friends. So make sure you share the show before we go. That's the best way to support A to Z Sports and continue growing the family here on a Wednesday morning.
Yep, let's do it officially. Welcome into A to Z Sports, powered as always by the BetMGM app. I'm Austin Stanley. He is Sam Phelan, our Titans reporter for A to Z Sports.com, and we are A to Z Sports, Nashville's on-demand sports talk network. And we go live every weekday morning at 8 Central Time on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. Links to the show segment by segment on our Twitter X timeline at A to Z Sports. And make sure you hit us up on other social media like Instagram, TikTok, and Threads for more great Titans content. Gotta thank our sponsors because they truly do make it happen for us, and they help out all of you guys like Wilson County Hyundai. Make Wilson County Hyundai a part of your new car buying process in Lebanon or at wilsoncountyhyundai.com. The Bone and Joint Institute, boneandjointtn.org, the region's destination for comprehensive orthopedic and sports medicine care. Farm Bureau Health Plans. Get better with Farm Bureau Health Plans. That means better coverage rates and service at fbhp.com/ATOZ. The Aura app, keeping us all safe online, and you get a 2-week free trial when you sign up with our link at aura.com/ATOZ. And Krebs Kubota, an elite Kubota dealer with 3 great locations in Murfreesboro, Columbia, and in Franklin, online at KrebsKubota.com. So, Sam, a lot of stuff happening yesterday. News breaking left and right. Yesterday, we did our bold prediction of the Titans' 53-man roster, and I said that they would start the 53-man roster without a kicker on the roster, and that changed quickly. At the end of yesterday's show, Diana Rossini said the Titans were one of several teams making calls about a trade for a kicker, and in fact, that did happen, where Nick Folk of the New England Patriots did get traded to the Tennessee Titans for a 7th-round pick 2 drafts from now in 2025. And Sam, you added some context on what Nick Folk did last season. And so I'll let you kind of react to what you thought about the Nick Folk news.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of talked about it on the show, that report that the Titans were at least kicking the tires and exploring trade options. And at the time, it surprised me. Well, it didn't surprise me that they were making calls, but I would have been surprised to see them make a trade and convert on a kicker. Knowing what Mike Vrabel has valued the kicker position at in the past, it didn't seem like something that he would do to give up draft capital to acquire one, especially not one like Nick Folk, who is 38 years old and maybe just the Titans kicker for 1 year realistically. And so you're giving up a 7th-round draft pick for 1 year of a kicker potentially. Not something that I think is the Titans' MO, but probably shows you how dire things have gotten and maybe how sick and tired Mike Vrabel is of not having a reliable kicking option. The 7th-round pick makes a lot more sense than like a 5th or a 6th, which was kind of what was like being tossed out there. Like, could you get a 5th or a 6th for Nick Folk or whatever? The 7th rounder, I think, makes a lot of sense. a guy who I have a lot of confidence is going to be consistent and reliable and everything the Titans need. I mean, those numbers, those 32 of 37 from last season, was a down year from what he had been in New England the 2 seasons prior, where he had hit over 90%. So
Yeah.
Nick Folk is as good as it gets to me for a vet. And it's just nice to know the position is handled for the 2023 season.
Nick Folk, the 14th kicker going into Mike Vrabel's 6th season that has been employed by the Tennessee Titans during that time. Now, you mentioned his kicking last year, down year, missing those kicks, but he has not missed a kick under 40 yards in 4 seasons.
Yeah.
So that's good.
Well, even last year, I'm trying to remember the exact numbers. I want to say he missed 2 kicks or something all year, or maybe 3, but all of them were from 50 plus. He was 5 of 8 from 50 plus in 2021. And he was a perfect 31 of 31 from 49 and lower. So he did not miss from inside of 50 in the 2021 season. And yet you'll take 5 of 8 from 50 if it means your guy's making everything from inside of 50. So and I think the chat does make a good point here. Like, just really pointing out 7th rounders are basically throwaways. It's a 2025 7th. Like, big picture, not a ton. I'm surprised the Titans did it because I think teams value those late round picks more than like fans do, or like I personally do. But I think it's a good trade for the Titans, considering what they are this year as well, Austin. Like, this is a team that I think has expectations to contend. Well, a kicker can cost you a football game, 2 football games. And, what does 1 or 2 games mean for this team down the stretch? Potentially a ton.
Yeah.
And so you need to be willing to move on from future assets in order to give yourself the best chance of competing and, making a playoff push this season.
Yeah, for sure. And, look, there's a lot of good things about Nick Folk. We've talked about his experience. He's been a high level kicker for a long time, and he's 38 years old. Some people are saying, why go Nick Folk over and give up a 2 drafts from now, 7th rounder, instead of Mason Crosby, who is a free agent. He's 20 minutes away in Brentwood. Well, Mason Crosby is still recovering and is in process of recovering, and has since he's healthy now, from a injury that hurt him with his Packers, the tail end of that Packers stint recently, where Nick Folk is not coming off of an injury like that and has had a lot more better success recently kicking. Now, there is a negative with Nick Folk because somebody asked, who did he get cut for, right? Nick Folk's a 38-year-old kicker, and he just got traded by the Patriots. And so you guys talked about this, Chad Ryland, who was a 4th round pick this season by the Patriots.
4th round pick out of Maryland.
Yeah, wins the job in New England because Nick Folk is now a Tennessee Titan. So there is that. Now, what's the reason of the Patriots feeling the need to draft a kicker in the 4th round? Because of Nick Folk being older. And he also has a problem with kickoffs. And this is something that I'm probably going to be clenching my fists with at some point in the season, is that out of 33 kickoffs last season, Sam, Nick Folk had 3 touchbacks.
That is a problem. So, is it a Ryan Stonehouse thing?
No.
Mike Vrabel said that wasn't the plan necessarily for Ryan Stonehouse to do kickoffs, but plans change. So maybe, right?
3 out of 33. My rule on kickoff, just kick it to the end zone. And then when you're returning, just take it knee. That's what it needs to be.
I get it. Counterpoint, if you can cover kicks, maybe it's a positive.
Yeah.
The Titans pride themselves on covering kicks, and I believe they had 3 of them stopped within the 20 in the preseason finale against New England. They did a good job getting down the field and covering those kicks. So if you're able to get down there, maybe it's a net positive for you not to just boot it through the end zone and have a touchback every time. That is the safer bet, no doubt. But,
now, some people are saying, and Deshaun says, I thought the Patriots did it on purpose. Devin says, I think it's a Belichick thing with the touchbacks. And then Orlando's saying this.
I don't know
No,
enough about that,
it's
but I
from
wouldn't be
what we've
surprised.
seen and from what I've heard and read from Patriots people that the lack of kickoff depth from Folk made it an easier decision for the rookie to win the job because of less leg overall. And look, there is a rule that now you can fair catch short kickoffs as well. And so that's something the Titans could benefit from. But I think the Titans have been bad at covering kicks over the last several years and blocking their own kick returns, where I just think the Titans should play the touchback game on both sides of the kickoff, and Nick Folk might not be the best person for that strategy. That's my strategy, not necessarily Vrabel's, but he only kicked 4 kickoff attempts a couple of years ago, and so it's not something that he has been known to be able to do, is get touchbacks throughout his career. And I think touchbacks are pretty important in my opinion. So, all right, Sam, let's go ahead and because Jags got juices.
Well, I'm confused by that though. Because Chris points this out, and I agree with Chris here. I mean, I don't know enough about this, but why can Nick Folk kick from 55 but not get a football into the end zone on a kickoff? I don't understand.
I mean, that's an extra 10 yards.
But it's
an
also
extra
off
20.
It's
extra 15.
It's off a tee.
Sure, it is off a tee, but that extra 15 yards is extra leg and you also have to have air in both situations. And you can't you could drill. If you want a kickoff to go through the end zone, that thing's got to be in the air on a line for 70 plus yards, like 75, 80 yards. It's a big difference than a 55-yard field goal.
I feel like if you can make a 55-yard field goal, you should be able to do that. I don't understand how that works, but yeah, that's another positive of Nick Folk, right?
Their difference is it's golf swings, right? It's a field goal is more of like you're trying to get air, you're trying to loft it, where you're just trying to drill it and on kickoffs, if that's the case. Look, we'll figure out what's going to happen with that, because that's going to be something that we're going to watch and see if Nick Folk can get touchbacks or not. All right, Sam. So now
I just want to say, by the way, I'm doing some research on this New England strategy thing.
That's something you can write, because
and if not, you might have given me an article idea to just write about a misconception about new Titans kicker Nick Folk. Because if people are believing the man can't kick it out of the end zone and he was doing it on purpose, I think we need to set the record straight. So I'm going to look into it. That's all I'm saying, because some of the chat seems pretty adamant.
All right, that's fine. All right, Sam, we're going to get to the biggest surprise. So here's the first question to get the chat more involved. Which Titans player on the 53-man roster surprised you most? Which Titans player on the 53-man roster surprised you the most? So we're going to get to your comments here in a second, and we'll got Sam's last 5 that he has that he thinks made it. But first, the Aura app can keep you safe online, and you can get a 2-week free trial by using our link, aura.com/ATOZ, when you sign up. It takes 2 or 3 minutes to sign up. I did it back in April. They found that 30 data brokers were selling my information to telemarketers and scammers and spammers. And in 5 or 6 days, they got rid of all of those data brokers from my life for, my 2-week free trial right there. So again, in 2 weeks, you can get a free trial for the Aura app with our link, aura.com/ATOZ. Take care of those data brokers that are annoying you in all assets of your life. Protect your passwords, manage your passwords. So if one gets leaked in a data breach, you get to know that from Aura. Credit, identity theft, parental controls. If you have kids that you want to make sure that they're being safe with the internet as well, make sure that you can trust Aura with all of your digital safety, as I do, as Sam does, and several people with A to Z, and get a 2-week free trial with our link, aura.com/ATOZ.
Today's show is powered by BetMGM, the king of sportsbooks. Use the bonus code ATOZ Sports when you sign up with BetMGM and get up to $1,000 back in bonus bets if your first bet doesn't win. Football's here. Football is here. I've been teasing, been poking around on a few college football lines for this weekend. I'm excited. I'm getting the tingles thinking about sitting down and watching a bunch of college football games and staring at BetMGM for an entire afternoon. It's the best time to get involved with a sports book. And if you're doing it, make sure it's the king of sports books, BetMGM, and use the bonus code ATOZ Sports for up to $1,000 back in the form of a bonus bet.
Sam, I woke up this morning and logged into my BetMGM app, and all of a sudden I had a 15% college football parlay boost, and then I had a $10 free bet just for no reason. But hey, that's just waking up on a Wednesday, ready for football season. Let's get. I'm gonna
have to go look at some of my see if I've got any
any
little boosts and stuff. Yeah, any gifts for the weekend because I was staring down Northern Illinois plus 8.5 the other day, and I was getting excited. So, all
right. So, Sam, we're going to focus on players who made the team. Which Titans player on the 53-man roster surprised you the most? And I'm going to let you kind of start, and then I'll get you to the chat. Your last 5 guys in. We're going March Madness bracketology theme on this. The last 5 guys in, Sam, Joe Lenardi, Phelan, is having Colton Dowell, Otis Reese, Anthony Kendall, Xavier Newman, and Matthew Jackson as the last 5 guys to make the cut. We'll talk about the first 5 guys outside of the cut line later on, but those are your 5 guys. So we'll send you to the chat to see what everybody's saying. Which Titans player on the 53-man roster surprised you most? Because this is where we're going to start. We got a lot of stuff to got a lot of ground to cover on this show today with 53 guys on the roster and 20 plus cuts. So what's the chat saying on the most surprising player on the roster?
Lou Man's taking Matthew Jackson. Ashley is saying Anthony Kendall. Richie is Monty Rice. Bork says Anthony Kendall. Matt says Monty Rice. Obviously Monty Rice from Eric as well. NWI from Denise. Anthony Kendall from Orlando. Dylan Radens from Jonathan. Sneaky good one. We knew he was going to be on the 53 at 3 days ago. Dylan Radens would have been mine too.
Because let's stop there for a second, because that is a curveball that you've been doing 53-man roster projections and predictions for about a month, and Dylan Radens was never really involved in any of those because he was on the physically unable to perform list. Caleb Farley stays on that. I thought I thought Radens would start the season on PUP.
Yeah, so did I. And so all of us in Titans media got that one immediately wrong on our final 53s because
that's an asterisk, though, right? Is it fair to have that be an asterisk?
I would say so, because we all would have had him on if we knew he was when we knew he was
obviously
healthy.
He was going to be on.
Yeah, we were kind of like, well, we just submitted it, and then the next day, Dylan's back at practice, and we were like, well, there goes our perfect roster. So they busted my roster.
That's right.
Matthew Jackson is Jason's answer. Colton Dowell from Jody, either Otis or Dowell from Titans. Kyle Dowell from Yuri, the 7th wide receiver. So just in general, somewhere between Kearis Jackson and Colton Dowell for Jeff. We've got Kendall over Garror, says Titans Rossi. Malik Willis from Joey. Colton Dowell / Monty Rice from Jon Snow. Otis from Clayton. Dowell from Jared. Dowell from Rooney. Kendall from Top Tier. Kendall from Brandon. Dowell from Daniel Wright. Rice from Eric Alonzo. Realistically, NWI from Joey. We've got Jackson, William Jackson. I don't know of a William Jackson. Matthew Jackson from Pastor Raymond. Garror not making the roster from Kenny. Otis Reese from Nicholas. Naquan Jones from Ryan. Monty Rice from Danny. So a lot of Monty Rice here. The chat seems pretty surprised that he was selected for the 53, but popular answers: Otis Reese, Colton Dowell. So yeah, the chat pretty much in line with some of my last 5 in here. I've got Dowell and Reese on that last 5 in.
So I'm going to eliminate 2. I thought Xavier Newman and Matthew Jackson felt pretty good. Matthew Jackson, for whatever reason, I feel like caught people off guard, but I was like, no, Matthew Jackson's kind of been solidified as that next safety behind Byard, Hooker, and Elijah Molden. Like I thought Matthew Jackson was already kind of squarely on the roster.
Mixing him up with Mike Brown?
Probably.
Yeah, I think that might be what you're doing.
Maybe I'm wrong then, because Matthew Jackson, Mike Brown, Spider-Man meme, that's the same guy, right?
Yeah.
So maybe that is. I guess my answer just got more complicated because I didn't expect Otis Reese to make it. I thought Otis Reese was a good storyline that was going to be on a practice squad and might be elevated for some moments. But it does make sense because of his special teams body type. He was a college safety that was playing inside linebacker in the NFL. That's like the perfect special teams player. Then when I look at the two that were my biggest, like, oh wow, they actually did. Keeping Anthony Kendall over Eric Garror was my biggest, like, because Anthony Kendall got broken earlier by Justin Mello than a lot of the other ones. He was one of the first ones. Made the roster was a breaking news of Anthony Kendall. And as soon as that happened, I was like, that's not good for my guy, EG. Like, I didn't think Eric Garror was going to make it. And I've kind of developed an affinity for Eric Garror over the last several weeks. And, I thought that was strange because Kendall didn't pop as much as a corner, nor did he stand out to me as a special teamer, but Eric Garror stood out more as a special teamer because he had the ball in his hands as a return person, and Kendall's not that. So my official answer of two that I had, I'm just going to answer with one. I'll let you go through and we'll see how the conversation is for me is Anthony Kendall making the roster in the defensive backs. That's my official answer. How do you feel about my biggest surprise there?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people were surprised. And I had I still had Eric Garror on my roster, but I had gotten a little bit of a feeling like that was less of a sure thing than I think a lot of fans and media members believed it was. That started to be the vibe that was given to me in the last couple days leading up to this thing. And ultimately, I was not that surprised to see Eric Garror left off because Mike Vrabel did what Mike Vrabel does, quite frankly. And that is, if you had any sort of question marks or whys, about the decisions made at the back end of the roster, know that Mike Vrabel chose the superior special teams player at every single position in question. And you look at these last five in, Colton Dowell, I think, was a combination of the injury to Kyle Phillips to keep the seventh wide receiver, as well as, what they probably believe he could be somewhere down the line.
Mm-hmm.
Keeping him on the 53 gives them a chance to develop him a little bit more and maybe get him some special teams reps in a game. But the three guys with Reese, Kendall, and Matthew Jackson, who were not guys penciled into many people's rosters on defense, complete special teams picks here. Otis Reese, like you said, a linebacker that's a former safety that runs a 4.5 and is a hard hitter, is an ideal guy to get down there on a kick and drill somebody. And looking at their inside linebacker depth was a bit surprising to me because I thought Ben Neiman was going to make it as kind of a backup for Aziz, and you don't know what Monty Rice is, but that's what Otis Reese is. Matthew Jackson has been their primary gunner in the preseason, and I think that's where he has separated himself as a gunner, which, you've got Mike Brown behind Elijah Molden, Kevin Byard, and Amani Hooker, but when Matthew Jackson is able to separate himself from Shaheem Carter and some of the other options at safety is as a gunner. Same thing with Anthony Kendall and Eric Garror. Anthony Kendall started getting praised by Mike Vrabel just about every week for popping on the tape on special teams. And he would go out of his way to start mentioning him a little bit more. And Eric Garror got a lot of the praise for his defensive ability. He was a great open field tackler. He did well in coverage, did a lot of things that made you feel like his stock was rising in that secondary. But when you're talking about your CB5, Mike Vrabel chose the special teamer. So
I guess in my thought, and we'll talk about Garror probably more when we talk about our biggest snubs. I thought open field tackling as a corner translates to open field tackling as a special teamer too. Right?
Yeah. And I mean, the aspect of that too, that I think was extra surprising for Garror was the value he provided as a punt returner. Potentially, I think he looked pretty good on punt return.
And I'll save my other.
Kearis Jackson gets the punt return job, at least initially, until Kyle Phillips comes back. Then we'll see. But I mean, I do think there could be some value in having another guy that you feel good about being a punt returner. Like, what happens if Kearis Jackson goes down in a game like he did in the preseason right now? I don't know who that next punt returner
It's
is on the
Amani
Titans
Hooker.
roster.
Amani
Like,
Hooker is
it's
your
Amani
safe.
Hooker as a safety punter.
He's your
So,
safety, just fair catch it every time.
right. So there is some value in having a back end of the cornerback room special teams guy that is also a punt returner for you if you need him to actually return punts. So
Yeah.
like I do think there is some value there. But I said my biggest surprise off the top, and it was Otis Reese. Because Otis Reese, great special teams guy, wasn't somebody who I felt like had a realistic shot because of the competition at his position. And you're talking about not just keeping Otis Reese over one player, but over two, Chance Campbell and Ben Neiman, that I think were viable options to be rotational pieces in your defense. Luke Gifford, they keep it inside linebacker, knowing he's primarily a special teams guy. That's where he excels. Monty Rice is, I don't know, is he available? Like, what is going on with him? And, is he what you hope he is on defense? So you don't have a ton of depth behind Azeez and Jack Gibbons at inside linebacker. So it did surprise me to take that fifth spot and really give it to another special teams guy before they give it to, a potential backup like a Ben Neiman or a Chance Campbell. So Otis was my biggest surprise.
It is Esports here live on this Wednesday, discussing the initial 53-man roster, the biggest surprises from the guys who made the roster. So there's a couple comments I want to get to from all of you guys about these last few that we're talking about and how Mike Vrabel is choosing them. But first, Sam, tell everybody about the Bone and Joint Institute.
The Bone and Joint Institute, the region's destination for comprehensive orthopedic and sports medicine care. You can visit them out in Franklin or schedule an appointment at boneandjointtn.org. They have a state-of-the-art rehab facility to assist in your recovery with everything all under one roof at the Bone and Joint Institute. That's clinic, image, surgery, rehab, testing, all in one location. So you're not driving around Middle Tennessee to try and get to your appointments. They have knowledgeable doctors. They have good, reliable care so that you don't fumble on your recovery. Schedule an appointment with them at boneandjointtn.org.
And with BetMGM, talked about it earlier, woke up this morning, had a 15% parlay boost token in my account, also had a $10 bonus bet. I don't know why. I just woke up with it, but that was always nice as college football really gets going this upcoming weekend. So just in time for football season, and make sure you sign up with BetMGM with our bonus code ATOZ Sports. That means you get a great first bet offer where you get up to $1,000 back in bonus bets if your first bet misses. So check that out. With our bonus code ATOZ Sports. When you sign up with the BetMGM app, visit betmgm.com for terms and conditions. 21 or older, Tennessee only, new customer offer. All promotions, several qualifications, other requirements. First online rule: one wager only. Rewards issued knowledgeable bonus bets. Bonus bets expire 7 days. And for problem game sport, call Tennessee Red Line 800-889-9789. So a couple a couple comments that I saw. Curtis saying, so if you can contribute on special teams, you're almost guaranteed a job. And then Andre saying Vrabel choosing special teams over talent, but neglecting the kicker is hilarious. To an extent, yes. But Curtis's comment it's
Yes.
because when you can only dress 46 players on a game day, and how many guys are not playing special teams, the quarterback, all 8 offensive linemen who are guaranteed and must be active.
Most of your starting anything, like
your two starting wide receivers, Derrick Henry. Now all of a sudden you're up to like 15 players.
Your defensive line is not playing special teams.
So there's 4.
Your starting corners, like you're not sending Christian Fulton out on kick coverage.
Right?
You're not sending
half,
Kevin
right?
Byard.
So now you're basically talking about half of your active game day roster is not playing special teams. So now you have to have guys that are different skill sets and athleticism and explosive and all that can go out there and do something on coverage units. So you're not getting burned and giving up field position in several first downs just because you can't cover kicks or you can't block a return, right? Like it is a big deal.
I mean, it's a big deal, and it's subtle, but it subtly changes games. And when like you said, you can't dress a ton, and you have a lot of guys that you're not wanting to get hurt there. Like, you need impactful talent. And so I think it's a very viable strategy to intentionally use the back half of your roster as a place to keep any and everybody that you know is a standout player on special teams. Like, players like, I guess maybe a Hassan Haskins last year are pretty rare, that you have a guy that you're like, oh, he's my RB2 and he's also one of my best special teamers. Like that, those guys just don't come around very often. You don't find guys like that on your roster that fit into a good rotational role while also being one of your main special teams impact guys. And so the Titans have prioritized this over the past 5 years, whether it be guys like Dylan Cole having success here, and whether they're the best inside linebacker in the world or not, that's here nor there. But Dylan Cole got down there on kicks and made a lot of hits and had a lot of really positive impacts for the Titans for the years that he was here. So yeah, that is their philosophy, and you have to address it somehow. Plus, you have roster elevations. Like, if you need somebody to fill a gap as strictly a wide receiver or strictly a pass catching tight end or strictly a depth corner, you can always elevate somebody and play them for a game. That's not really a big shocker.
Right. Yeah. Because COVID actually made it easier for teams to navigate rosters and to also, have guys have extra opportunity for jobs, which I think was a good thing. They need to make that. I still think they should continue to widen the active game day roster as a whole. A couple other roster notes of things that we haven't really touched on. 7 wide receivers. We're going to talk a lot about that tomorrow and maybe what that could necessarily mean or not mean. Because much like Nick Folk, there's a connotation with the 7 wide receivers. So we'll kind of dive into that. But I do think when you look at the wide receivers, obviously Kyle Phillips' injury does create an extra job. Now, if Kyle Phillips did not get hurt in Minnesota, do they keep 6? And which of the last 2 is out, Dowell or Jackson? I think that's something that's intriguing to me.
Yeah.
Because I mean, Sam, on your last 5 in, you have Dowell on here, but you don't have Kearis Jackson. Now that's obviously with the knowledge of Phillips' injury.
Yeah. So I think it's a different. If Kyle Phillips is healthy, my perspective on the wide receiver room flips completely. So I'll get to this comment from Marvin real quick. Marvin says, Sam, your biggest surprise should be Kearis Jackson. You weren't high on him at all. Just knew he wasn't making the 53-man roster. And hey, Marvin, I got to say, I was very off on Kearis Jackson. I've been very low on him throughout training camp. And I think Minnesota was really the Minnesota game when he was the punt returner behind Kyle Phillips was where I was like, oh, that's interesting.
Before he got hurt.
Then Kearis Jackson goes down and you're like, oh, okay, never mind. Kearis Jackson's not making the team. Maybe Mason Kinsey season. But then Kearis returns to practice, had some really good practices the week leading up to the New England game. Obviously took almost all of the return duties in against New England, scored a touchdown against New England. And with Kyle Phillips, knowing Kyle Phillips would be out, I had very little doubt going into my last 53-man roster prediction that Kearis Jackson was going to be on the team and be the punt returner to begin the season. So yeah, he definitely, shifted my perspective. I think, shifted the Titans' perspective throughout camp, earned himself a job. So when I made that last 5 in, like in your Rand Carthon and Mike Vrabel making these decisions, I did not have Kearis Jackson as somebody who was a bubble decision. I do think knowing that they had to keep Kearis Jackson to be the punt returner made the Colton Dowell situation more interesting because they had to ask themselves, do we want to keep 7 wide receivers right now? Kyle Phillips is healthy. I think that goes the other way. They still probably keep Colton Dowell, and they practice squad Kearis Jackson as that next punt returner if they need to elevate him for a game.
Yeah. Ryan says, why do we waste time talking about players that have done nothing? Monty Rice, Racey McMath, Kyle Phillips. None of these players can get on the field, so talking about them is a waste of time. I get where your frustration is, Ryan, and I agree that it has been a waste of time with Racey McMath because Racey McMath was not doing anything consistently good when he was on the field outside of training camp. The month of August 2022, deep threat Racey season was real. Then he got hurt and he was gone for 4 months. And then once he came back, he didn't do anything. And so that's not us wasting time. I feel like we've talked less Racey McMath than we've been saying.
I haven't talked to Racey McMath since the first week of training camp because he's been bad.
Yeah, and whenever we brought up Racey McMath, it was like, yeah, well, he's out. Like, it was like, how many times have we talked about him not even being?
I can't even tell you how many times I've had that conversation. We're standing on the sideline at practice. Some media members like, yeah, is this open a chance for Racey? I said, no. Racey was cut 3 weeks ago. Like, they're keeping him for a body. Like, yeah.
Now, Monty Rice is fascinating because he's a top 100 draft pick. He's a third round pick.
And the expectation was high. Like,
of him being a starter.
For Racey, the expectation for I had no expectation for Racey this year. But Monty Rice, like, you let go of David Long thinking Monty Rice was a starter. Now, Jack Gibbons has overtaken that job and kind of been what you hoped Monty would be. But, like, you went from, like, starter to is he getting cut, which is worth talking about, I think.
Yeah. And then James says Kyle Phillips is A to Z's love child. Now, I think that's hilarious and a little bit of a stretch. But
I like Kyle Phillips.
But Kyle Phillips,
healthy, he's good.
And that's it, right? And Chris adds, are we concerned with Phillips' ability to stay healthy? Yeah, you have to be, because when he's been healthy, he's been very impressive.
But he's been healthy for one game, which is concerning.
Yes.
Like, he was healthy throughout training camp, and we were like, whoa, this dude is a dude. He was healthy for the Giants game, and you were like, whoa, this dude is a dude. And you'll remember, Austin, like, there was some bets going on within A to Z about Kyle Phillips potentially having like 500, 600-yard receiving seasons last year.
That was Jack Gentry, who lost, but
I think it was a real possibility if he's healthy for 17 games in that offense last year. And to see him come in this year and then not be healthy again early on, granted, contact injury, a little bit different, but it does make you go, okay, like, we know you've got it in you, but if you can't get on the field, when does it stop mattering? So,
by the way, Kyle Phillips getting hurt on a punt return when he got hit in the knee. Who was the Titans player responsible for blocking said gunner who hit Kyle Phillips in the knee? That would be number 13, Racey McMath. Which Sam, if you remember this, before the Chicago game, I said about Racey McMath, he can't do things as a wide receiver or something that's going to get somebody else blown up. And throughout preseason games, he missed a block on a screen. They got a receiver blown up behind the line, and then he obviously did not protect the gunner as well on that punt return.
Yeah, last
thing, hard job. We know
last thing I'm going to say on Racey McMath, because we are doing what we said we wouldn't do, is spending time on these guys now. But Racey was a draft pick by John Robinson specifically to play special teams. That's why he drafted him. There wasn't really an expectation from John that he would develop into this deep threat. There was some potential upside in his athleticism, but you drafted that guy knowing that he was an athletic freak that could be a great special teamer for you, what John Robinson felt like was valuable in the 7th round.
Yep.
Racey McMath has that athleticism, but has never polished his skills enough to tackle, to block, or do any of the physical things you need to do as a special teamer to excel at it. And for that reason, his value has tanked to 0. That's end of story with Racey. I told you, oh, he's fast, and you were to be a gunner maybe, and you were like, he can't tackle. And I started watching Racey, and I said, yeah, he can't tackle at all. Like, he's on his heels every time somebody puts a move on him in the open field. So, I mean, that's the Racey McMath story. A lot of upside in the athleticism for special teams. Didn't have what it took to get it done.
No, just did not have the true football skill set out to match his athleticism, or didn't have the developmental ability in that. All right, Sam, let's get to the biggest snub. We'll ask everybody, who was the Titans' biggest 53-man roster snub? Who was the biggest snub that got cut? So first, I'm going to tell you guys about, hey, maybe you just need to find a better way to cut your grass. I'll give you that with our friends at Krebs Kubota. Krebs Kubota is where you should turn for all of your equipment needs. They are Middle Tennessee's preferred equipment dealer and provider with 3 amazing locations: Murfreesboro, Columbia, and in Franklin. The website, KrebsKubota.com, is a beautiful website, so go check that out whenever you need new equipment. Big or small, Krebs Kubota has it all. Didn't mean to rhyme there, but it worked out very nicely. And they also are an elite Kubota dealer, which means they have the best equipment in the industry with the Kubota line and the best unmatched warranties that Kubota provides that other equipment companies cannot provide. And Krebs Kubota puts the cherry on top with a great customer service satisfaction that will have you coming back, because their goal is to get you what you need and develop a relationship with you of trust. And that is massive when it comes to equipment, because equipment breaks. That's why the warranty is important, and that's why the relationship's important. So Krebs Kubota is where to go. Online at KrebsKubota.com, or in Columbia, Murfreesboro, and in Franklin.
Today's show is powered by BetMGM, the king of sportsbooks. Use the bonus code ATOZ Sports when you sign up with BetMGM for up to $1,000 back in bonus bets if your first bet doesn't win. College football this weekend. If you're placing bets, do it with BetMGM. Sign up with the bonus code ATOZ Sports, and even if your first wager loses, you can get up to $1,000 back in your account and another chance to win big. That's why they're the king of sportsbooks. Get with BetMGM today and BetMGM.com.
All right, so Sam, biggest roster snubs. I'll send you to the chat to see what everybody's saying before we get to your first five out.
Demetrius says it's Mason Kinsey. Ashley says Eric Garror. Lumans Kinsey. Garror or Campbell. Kyle Pico. We have Garror from Gene. Garror from Denise. Garror from Paul. Garror from Titans Kyle. We have Titans Rossi saying, can you guess mine? Saying he's going to take Mason Kinsey there. Orlando Jones says Sam O. Jason Lloyd says Thomas Odukoya. Nick says Eric Garror. We've got Chance Campbell from Scott. Garror from Scary Harry. Garror from Sean. Odukoya from Jacob. We have got biggest snub was Gibby. Well, Gibby's on the roster. Yeah, Jack Gibbons on the roster, Matt. Go look at it. Go read it. He's the inside linebacker too. JQ says Chance Campbell. So does Brad. Odukoya is for Ryan. Garror for Patrick. Odukoya for Bork. Kinsey on his birthday. It was his birthday, from Denise Hernandez. Chance Campbell from Nick and Rodney. So two big answers. Eric Garror, Chance Campbell from the chat. Some Odukoya, some Kinseys here and there. Austin, here is my first five out. It is Eric Garror. It is safety Shy Carter, linebacker Ben Neiman, offensive lineman Jordan Ruse, and tight end Thomas Odukoya. These were the guys to me that I feel like when you looked at the decisions the Titans made at some of the back end of their roster, these were probably conversations they probably had as this guy or that guy. Mm-hmm. Is it Eric Garror or is it Anthony Kendall? They went with Kendall. Is it Shy Carter or is it Matthew Jackson? They went with Jackson. Is it Otis Reese or is it Ben Neiman? They went with Otis Reese. Jordan Ruse, the veteran, probably got passed up by Xavier Newman, but I don't think that was an easy decision for the Titans either to let go of Jordan Ruse. And then Thomas Odukoya, somebody who probably, at least in my opinion, separated himself as an inline blocking tight end, and they had to have a conversation, 7 wide receivers or 4 tight ends. They opted for Colton Dowell in the 7th receiver and putting Odukoya on the practice squad. So those are my first 5 out that I think probably just missed this 53.
All right. So Sam, my question for you is, I want you to go first on this one. Who is the biggest snub?
The biggest snub for me,
because Chance Campbell was not on your list of first 5 out.
Yeah, he wasn't. Right? I had Ben Neiman over him. I didn't have Chance making my roster in the first place. So I was surprised that it was Otis over Neiman, but I think Neiman was the next guy up in that room, personally. So I would not say it was Chance Campbell. Of this group, biggest snub for me has to go with who I feel like put on the best tape, and I would have to say it's Eric Garror. I understand the decision to not go with Eric Garror and to make the move for the special teamer here. But Eric Garror, to me, had the best preseason, took advantage of all of his opportunity, put the best sort of game film out there for the coaches to break down, separated himself in practices as well, was well received by the locker room and his defensive teammates. I think Eric Garror is the guy who, if I'm a Titans coach, I try and find room for on my 53-man roster. That's not how it works. Guys like Eric Garror are easy to get onto a practice squad, easier than veterans sometimes or guys with experience. But he, to me, is the biggest snub. That's why I've got him straight up there at the top.
I agree. I definitely think Eric Garror is it. He is somebody that is a spark plug, and I think you can kind of argue this with Kinsey in a way too. Has the respect of the locker room, an undersized guy, an overlooked guy. Eric Garror out of Louisiana, was a very good player there, but is a 5'8", 170 pounds, soaking wet type guy. But he's got a lot of explosiveness and energy and charisma, and just somebody that you want to see perform and do well. And I think that's a bummer because I don't know what else Eric Garror could have done to change the outcome.
Well, yeah, and like it's especially that way to me. Like, yeah, what else could he have done? Like everybody else, I think that's on this list, and everybody else that the chat is bringing up, I understand the move of the direct competition. Like Jordan Ruse was right on the bubble, but I don't think you can call him a snub when you consider everybody else in the on the offensive line that the Titans have liked more. Same thing with like Ben Neiman, I guess. Like there was a lot of competition at that position. Shy Carter was down there as far as safeties were concerned and had some guys above him on that depth chart. Eric Garror, of the young defensive backs that were all competing for 2 or 3 spots, I felt like had the best preseason and the best training camp as a whole. And ultimately, it came down to probably his size and his ability to contribute on special teams because of his size. But that's a shame considering what he put on tape and what he did. So that's why I have him as a snub. Is like there was more room to get Eric Garror on this roster somewhere. You didn't have to only keep 5 corners. You could have kept 6 corners and 4 safeties. You could have mixed up how you did this. So
Kane has some super chats, and I don't necessarily agree with his opinion, but his overall point is not wrong. QB2 gave up a lot for a scout team quarterback. So when will he get the starting job again? Talking about Levis. I'm here for all the smoke. Levis was a wasted pick. And then Kane answered biggest snub, whoever spot Levis took. Like keeping 3 quarterbacks was going to lose somebody a job.
Yeah.
And it's probably one of those 5 guys that are up there. It's like an extra defensive back, an extra offensive lineman for depth, an extra special teams linebacker. Like one of those 5 guys lost the job because of 3 quarterbacks.
One of those 5 guys could be coming back too. Kyle Phillips to IR is maybe something that we see. The timetable on him, I'm not sure. If it's 2 weeks into the regular season, he could be back. Then maybe they don't IR him. But if that 6-week timeline that was kind of speculated is really how the Titans feel, then he's out through week 4. It makes sense to IR him, and then you can add somebody to the roster. And so then it's 6 wide receivers, and maybe you add a tight end back in an Odukoya or a Kevin Rader, or maybe you do add a little bit of depth in the secondary, and it's Shy Carter, Eric Garror getting, another opportunity. So it's not necessarily set in stone that all these guys are gone, but yeah, I think that's the next crop of talent internally that you would be looking to elevate and bring onto your roster.
I got another thing too. One of these guys is a beneficiary and a victim of an NFL rule that I want to talk about. But first, tell everybody about Farm Bureau Health Plans. Farm Bureau Health Plans can take care of you with all of your health coverage because they've been doing that for Tennesseans for over 75 years. Health, dental, and vision. Farm Bureau Health Plans is where to turn. It's very easy to get that started by going to fbhp.com/ATOZ. From there, you can make an appointment to go walk into one of their 200 locations across the state, or you can do it over the phone or over Zoom at your convenience to find out how you can save money in your life. And health coverage is a great way to do it because you can save money with Farm Bureau Health Plans, but also get better coverage. That's the best of both worlds. So you can do it all together, health, dental, or vision, or go a la carte to fill in some gaps, maybe with your current plan. And if you whatever stage of life you're in, financially or family or age, they can cover you as well. So check them out at fbhp.com/ATOZ.
BetMGM is the king of sportsbooks. Use the bonus code ATOZ Sports when you sign up with BetMGM and get up to $1,000 back in bonus bets if your first bet doesn't win. Second chance to win big. You place that first wager, and even if you lose, your money goes back into your account up to $1,000 in the form of a bonus bet. You get another chance at it. You try it again, see if you can win big. So that's why BetMGM is the king of sportsbooks, up to $1,000 in the form of a bonus bet with the bonus code ATOZ Sports.
All right, so Sam, one Titans player is a beneficiary and a victim of an NFL rule.
He's more of a victim.
Are you picking up where I'm putting it down?
Yeah, I am. And he's more of a victim than anything.
You think he's a victim more than a beneficiary? I think
he makes this team without the rule.
But I don't think he has an opportunity without the rule, too.
That's also true. That's
what I'm talking about. And that's Thomas Odukoya, because Sam has Thomas Odukoya, the tight end, as one of his first 5 out. And he is a beneficiary because he got a roster exemption from being a part of the international program. So the Tennessee Titans got to add him to their roster throughout the offseason to bring him along. But he also did not make the team because the Titans don't have to have him count as one of their 16 practice squad guys. He's a practice squad exemption. So now they can keep 17 players. So Thomas Odukoya is employed by the Titans because of the rule, but he's also going to be on the practice squad and not the team because of the rule. Yeah. I just find that very interesting of like, it's a good thing. It's a great idea, but now teams will always, and companies and business owners will always try to find that loophole to benefit themselves instead of the guy that the rule was intended for. Right.
Yeah, it was the big thing looming over him as the rosters were coming down. I kept putting him on my roster, also knowing it was a possibility that, you know, if he didn't separate himself enough and force their hand, the Titans were likely to take the exemption, throw him on the practice squad again, and he's there if you need him, which is realistically what's going to happen here. Trevon Wesco gets hurt or can't play. Thomas Odukoya is there as an inline blocking backup for you on your practice squad without counting against the 16. Sign every NFL team up for that type of, opportunity. So ultimately, I think it did contribute to him not making the team when you consider the ability that the Titans have to have an extra guy on the practice squad by moving him there. Stings for Odukoya, but also has afforded him a lot of opportunity in the National Football League as well, and had no chance of sticking with the Titans last season had they not had that exemption. So he's had the opportunity to grow a lot in the time since joining the International Player Pathway Program.
Yeah, and so Richie says, what is the point of preseason then? Thomas Odukoya showed better play than Josh Whyle, but didn't make the roster.
I mean, they're different players. Right. Like Odukoya and Josh Whyle are not the same function. Josh Whyle is an H-back / vertical threat, he is a complement to Chigakonkwo as a 6'7" receiving threat that, has fullback tendencies and that makes him versatile in how you can use him. Trevon Wesco is your inline blocker and is a really, really good one, really reliably good one. And so Thomas Odukoya fits more into that role. He's not fast. He's not athletic. He can't catch. He is strong as an ox and can block up front. So that is what he does. Very different players. So like their play isn't defined by like receptions or video. Like it's relative to the player.
Yeah. And I think Josh Whyle is a better player than what he showed in the preseason.
I agree. Game. It was a bad preseason and not a very good training camp for him, but I think the ceiling for Whyle is still there to be impactful. I don't think he's like a tight end 1 on a team, but I think, complemented by somebody like Chig, he can be valuable.
And Bork says, guys, rookie tight ends take time to develop. You almost never heard of a rookie tight end making an impact. It's a tough position. It's a very strenuous position because you're having to do everything mentally and physically.
Even first, second round tight ends, like it takes them a few years to really like get into come into their own as playmakers and well-rounded pieces. You don't see a ton of guys come in and have 800,000 yard receiving seasons and be like at the top of their game as a rookie tight end.
Yeah. Brock says Malik's accuracy issues made Josh look bad
Partially true.
Yes.
Two of them.
The Chicago interception, Wiley should have caught, but Malik should have thrown it better. The other interception, I guess, against New England.
Was a bad ball. That was not Wiley's fault. But, I mean, I guess you add some receptions for Wiley and some first down conversions for Wiley.
Don't fumble.
If those are better throws, he also fumbled a good, perfectly good pass from Will Levis that picked up a first down, and he put the ball on the turf. So that's not on anybody but him.
Yep, for sure. So that's kind of my Josh Wiley, Thomas Odukoya segment. I still think Josh Wiley can do something with this team, but as I've said throughout the offseason, it's not going to be until like December. That's just kind of the trajectory that he's on, but I'm not worried about it.
Jay wants to know where the kid from Utah went. Dalton Kincaid is he's a Buffalo Bill. And we have a lot of different I think the rookie tight ends are going to be fun to watch. Michael Mayer in Vegas, Sam Laporta in Detroit. There's a lot of them, and they're so there's kind of this new wave of tight ends coming to the NFL right now. Green Bay has one too. I forgot his name. You've got the Kuntz in New York. There's a lot of them. So.
Michael Mayer.
Myers in Vegas.
That's right.
I'm trying to remember who they drafted in Green Bay, but anywho,
I'm looking it up now. It's gonna just bother me.
Darnell Washington's the backup with the Steelers. Yeah, Scott, he is. So
Darnell Washington's a beast. Luke Musgrave.
They have two of them actually, two rookie tight ends in Green Bay. So Musgrave is the starter though.
Musgrave is your
Schoonmaker or whatever was he's second year I think, but
Sam Laporta.
Laporta's in Detroit.
Yep.
Yeah.
Pretty good rookie tight ends. Josh Wiley, not one of them necessarily. But hey, Chig was the leader of all rookie tight ends in receiving last year. So the Titans got that.
That's a great example, right? He was the best rookie tight end last year, and he didn't do anything for the first 8 weeks. It took him a little bit to finally start doing something. And now you're still hopeful that Chig can be a 600, 700 yard guy. That would be great. And that's a second year tight end that led all rookies last season. So
no doubt. All right, Sam, time to throw some shade. Get your shade ready. Throw some shade if you got some. That's how we end Wednesday shows. So it's time to do it. Hyundai.com. Make them a part of your new car buying process. Go see our friends Payne Bone and his team in Lebanon or online at WilsonCountyHyundai.com. So throwing shade here to wrap up the show. Sam, I'll have you keep an eye on the chat to see how the shade rolls in right now, and then you can get this thing started for us.
All right. Well, my shade off the bat, was thinking about this the other day, and I just had to throw shade at them because I've been very college football minded. I'm going to throw shade at the Pac-12. And the reason I'm throwing shade at the Pac-12 is that it's hilarious to me to watch a conference eat itself from within in the year that same conference is as good as it's been in a decade. And I'd looking at Pac-12 football and the quarterbacks between Michael Penix and Bo Nix and Caleb Williams and all the guys that they have, Daniels at ASU, there's a lot of really, really good teams in the Pac-12 this year. I think there's 6 legitimate contenders in the Pac-12. Some are saying they're the second best conference behind the Big Ten.
What are you talking about?
Huh?
Pac-12 football? 6 contenders for what?
Legitimate.
To contend for the Pac-12 championship or contend
No,
for
I think top 10 potential teams. There's a conference of quarterbacks, man. UCLA, USC, Washington, Oregon State's going to be really sneaky good. Oregon is going to be good. They've got some Utah. They've got some good teams. It's a good conference this year.
Second behind the Big Ten.
Some are saying it's the second most.
Who are these? Some. Who is they?
I've heard.
You've heard.
I've heard it.
You've heard it.
People say it goes Big Ten, Pac-12 now. That's just what they're saying.
God.
Why do you think Washington and UCLA and USC, these are some premier programs joining the Big Ten. They want to get in on the good stuff.
No way. Ain't no way.
I'm just saying that's what is being said out on the streets.
The streets of what? The streets of Portland?
The streets are saying it goes Big Ten and then the Pac-12, then everybody else. That's what it is in 2023.
Sounds great.
It's pretty fun to watch.
Great.
So, anywho, but shade on the Pac-12 because them having what I think is really going to be a really fun, electric conference to watch play football this year. I'm really excited to watch Pac-12 football with all the QBs they have. For that conference to be this competitive and then have them also knowing that they're about to die at the same time is just like very... it's very fitting. So shade on the Pac-12. You like, how did you do this to yourself? You would have had things going great for you if you could have just stuck it out. Like, anyways, more rich get richer, I guess. Big Ten eats more teams. So
I don't even know what to do. I don't even know how to respond to that. It's a terrible shade.
It's just, everybody wants to be in the Big Ten. I don't know what to tell you.
It's because the SEC isn't taking anybody else because they're good. Danny says throwing shade at all of his vehicles. Sun's went out Sunday, his went out Monday, Wife's went out this morning, all in like 1 week. That is terrible. That's a brutal situation there. Mister says shade on Will Levis for faking injury to keep from putting up bad tape. That's a hilarious conspiracy theory. Let's see. Tiffany says, shade, finally got my throwback Simmons jersey, and there's a white spot defect on it. Ugh.
Send it back.
Send it back. If it's cold, I send it back.
Yeah. You're a send it back kind of guy.
Nate says, throwing shade at people who threaten to go to YouTube. No, watch the show wherever you want to watch the show. It doesn't matter to me. But yeah, we make more money off of YouTube. So do whatever you want to do. Jeff says throwing shade on Eric Gilbert, has all the talent and is breaking and stealing vape merch. He did come from Georgia, so he learned from the best. Yeah, that's a terrible situation. I thought Nebraska handled it, and the comments coming out of there were probably as best as they could be. But yeah, that just flat out sucks. On that.
By the way, Matt Rule. I'm so excited that he's back in college football. I think Nebraska's got a good one there. Yeah,
Nebraska, Minnesota. Early, I thought was to ride. I think it's Nebraska plus 6.5. I think is interesting there coming up tomorrow night. I think that is.
I'm just like, I keep watching all these videos. They keep popping up on like my TikTok feed of Matt Rule like coaching behind the scenes at practice, and I'm just like, this dude's a college coach. Like I think he's going to do some good stuff over there.
Denise says shade at the Cowboys to trade for Trey Lance.
We could shade we need to shade Jerry Jones for how they did Will Grier. Can we talk about that real quick?
Sure. I have no idea what they did to Will Grier.
So Jerry Jones, being the owner, GM, full autonomy guy that he is, made this trade for Trey Lance. By the way, gave up a 4th-round pick for a 3rd-string quarterback. Wild. Said he's going to be the 3rd quarterback behind Cooper Rush and Dak Prescott, and said ahead of time, by the way, Will Grier is going to be released tomorrow. Well, the Cowboys had a game that night, a preseason game that night, their last one. And Will Grier, not happy, obviously, with it. Loved being a Dallas Cowboy, loved his teammates. Dak Prescott, not happy, loved Will Grier being his teammate. The coaching staff rallied around Will Grier. And I heard that, Jerry didn't really check with anybody before making the trade for Trey Lance. The Cowboys coaching staff goes and sends Will Grier out there for the preseason finale, gives him the entire game all to himself. I want to say he went like 29 for 32 for 360 and 4 touchdowns and absolutely balled out. And he's doing this while the Cowboys are sitting there going, love to keep you, but we just traded a 4th-round pick for Trey Lance to be our 3rd string. We got nothing else to do. So they release Will Grier, who's crying in the locker room after being like, I'm just sad to leave my teammates. They asked Dak about trading for Trey Lance. He's like, I'm just upset for Will. Like, it was not well received by anybody. No, and Jerry just took it upon himself to make it happen. So, yeah, we got to shade Jerry there.
Fair. Fair shade. I like that. Will Grier, former Florida Gator, used steroids to go from like 165 up to 210 pounds early in his career, then got left there and then went to West Virginia and has done a pretty good job. But hey, maybe Will Grier can find a spot with the New England Patriots, because my shade is going on Bill Belichick for only keeping one quarterback on his roster, Mac Jones, and cutting your guy Bailey Zappi and also Malik Cunningham. And so who just one quarterback? Like, Bill, what are you doing, dude? Like, that's just dumb. It's just
mean, they have to add at 2, I would say, before the week 1. Like,
well, they said they're going to bring back Zappi on the practice squad, but they talked about how much better Bailey Zappi was, from a year ago back in June, and then you cut him and they'll just have one quarterback on the roster. It's like a weird authority power move by Bill Belichick. No, you know what? Both of you suck. You can both get cut, and maybe we'll get you on the practice squad. This is a strange thing for one quarterback on the roster for the Patriots. That's my shade.
I have another one for you, by the way. I completely forgot about this. I've been trying to disperse it from my memory. I don't know if you saw this, but this is maybe the most wild story in sports this year that nobody's talking about. It of course happened at a Chicago White Sox game. 3 women were shot in the game, in the stadium, during the game, in the 3rd inning, because a woman, this is fact, snuck a gun into the stadium, hiding it between her belly fat rolls. The gun accidentally went off while it was hiding under the folds of her belly fat, grazed her abdomen, shot another woman in the leg, and deflected off another woman's back. 2 of them got medical treatment. 1 did not. An unidentified man then took the weapon, left the stadium before stadium officials or police could get there. Nobody had any idea where the shot came from, or the shots. I don't know how many there were. Oh, and by the way, it happened in the 3rd inning, and the White Sox kept playing. Like, there was no sort of stoppage, no nothing. Somebody got a gun into the stadium. The gun went off and 3 fans were shot, and they were just like, we'll keep playing the Orioles. Don't worry about us here. We're going to keep swinging away. Absolutely crazy. Shade on the whole thing. Is that not how is that story not national news?
I don't know. I'll tell you what, the biggest winner that I'm hearing is Plaxico Burress, because now he is not the dumbest person to hide a gun in his sweatpants in a club.
Plaxico Burress is it's a good day to be him. He's
off the hook.
Up. I was floored. There was some rumor at one point that the shot came outside the stadium and landed in the stadium as a what goes up must come down from over a mile away. That was a real theory for a while.
Oh my gosh.
And they could not figure out where these gunshots came from for a week. Turns out it was from a woman's belly fat that just had a firearm in it.
Oh,
strange. I don't know how that doesn't set off the metal detectors. I don't know how any of this happened, but it happened. So White Sox gonna White Sox, I guess.
None of that makes any sense, but hey, good shade, quality shade here to wrap up a Wednesday. All right, that'll do it for us. We've got tons of content continuing to roll out there on A2Zsports.com. Sam's going to go do some recon digging on Nick Folk and his kickoffs, and we'll see what that result is. But Buck Rising will be live tonight, A2Z Sports Primetime. Make sure you hit that like button before you head out of here on Facebook and on YouTube. Please hit that thumbs up like button for us. That just makes the show better and helps our algorithm. And subscribe to our channel for all of our Titans content, because the season is just getting started here soon. We've got more things to announce for the season coming up, so stay tuned for that. We'll catch you guys tomorrow morning. Appreciate it as always.